Hey everyone! If you enjoyed this video, the full version is available on Patreon. I'll be uploading all my content there going forward.
Chapter 1. The bright sun rose slowly from the sea, and the seagulls in the early morning stood on the wooden poles of the pier washing their feathers. A strong man with a height of nearly 3 meters and solid muscles walked out of the warehouse. Ha! __, straight face, oh, straight face. The strong man stretched his waist long and raised his head. Guru, brother is really, let me get up so early, trap lousy. The strong man raised the rum in his hand, dried it in one breath, and then complained unhappily. Then, the strong man picked up 2 wooden buckets filled with food prepared by the cook, and strolled to a messy warehouse. Whoa! The strong man lifted the iron door of the warehouse, and the bright sunlight instantly illuminated the dim warehouse. In the warehouse of less than 50 square meters, there were more than 140 or 15-year-old teenagers who were sleeping soundly. It is full of beggars and children recruited by the strong man's gang, or laborers from the gang bought by their parents because they can't afford it. Get up! You bastards! You know how to sleep every day, so you get up and work for lousy. How long are you lazy pigs going to sleep? The strong shoving sound and the surrounding noises like a vegetable market sounded in Luo Yi's ears, waking him up from the sound of sleep. However, this did not interrupt Roy's sleepiness, but made him even more sleepy. I said. How long are you going to sleep, kid? Can't you hear what Laozi said? A shadow shrouded Luo Yi, and a strong man with a height of nearly 3 meters walked slowly to Luo Yi's side and roared in his ear. Mom! I stayed up late last night and didn't sleep well, let me sleep for another 5 minutes. Because of the habit of being called by his mother to go to school at 6 p.m., Luo Yi didn't feel any sense of getting up, but Luo Yi, who was dazed in the morning because of low blood sugar, still didn't notice the change in the surrounding environment, so he muttered dissatisfiedly. One sentence. She. This guy is miserable, dare to say that to Bob boss. Haha. I bet he has no food to eat today. Then it's up to you to say, hee. I'm afraid he's not even hungry for tomorrow's meal. If he wants to bet, he will bet on something else. How about blocking half of your dinner blame? You say he can live for a few days. Who is afraid of who? I bet he can live for a week at most. No. Look how thin he is. I think he can live for 3 days at most. Looking at Luo Yi, who was still unable to get up in front of the strong man, some other people around began to whisper, and some even gloated that Luo Yi could live for a few days to read. Hee. There is no kid's mother here, only his Laozi. Get up for Laozi now, immediately, if you dare to lie down for a second, Laozi will chop you up and throw it into the sea to feed the fish. Hearing Luo Yi's words, Bob was instantly furious, and without thinking about it, he raised a big foot and stomped on his stomach. Ah! At this moment, under such a strong attack, Luo Yi, who was confused, finally woke up, and was extremely awake. However, the opponent's kick also made Luo Yi feel that his intestines were broken, and the whole appendix was burning with pain, and the opponent's foot was very experienced, without hurting his internal organs at all. But also make him extremely uncomfortable. Wow! Then, Luo Yi felt like his stomach was overturned, a strong vomit emanated from his stomach, a large amount of gastric juice retched out of his mouth in the next second, and a sour smell spread out from the small warehouse. Hey! Kid, are you awake now? Do you want to sleep for another 5 minutes? Bob looked at Luo Yi, who was tearing up in pain, and felt very happy in his heart, with a very evil smile on his face. Luo Yi, who was extremely uncomfortable, obviously didn't have the strength to listen to what Bob said, and his ears had directly ignored Bob's words. Didn't you hear me, UBD? Seeing Luo Yi daring to ignore him, Bob pulled out the whip on his waist. Snapped. A whip in Bob's hand threw a whip flower, which hit Luo Yi's exposed arm with great precision, and Luo Yi immediately slashed the flesh, leaving a long blood stain. Ah! As a pampered modern person, Luo Yi had never experienced such pain before, and immediately fell to the ground with his forearm covered, rolling on the ground and crying. Snapped. Su was because Luo Yi was crying too loudly. Bob carefully looked back at the cabin behind him, and then slapped Luo Yi's back with another whip, threatening him. Shut your stinky mouth, if you disturb the elder brother sleeping, I will throw you into the sea to feed the fish. Yes. I'm sorry, please don't hit me, woo woo. Luo Yi twitched painfully on the ground, but because of Bob's threat, he didn't dare to cry out, so he had to cover his mouth desperately and choked in a low voice. Hee hee. Very good. Are you still sleepy now? Seeing that his training method was so effective, Bob immediately smiled and asked Luo Yi's previous question again. Woo, I'm not sleepy anymore. I'm not sleepy. I won't sleep anymore. Facing Bob, who greeted him with a smile, Luo Yi immediately backed away in fright, for fear of being beaten again. Hey! It's fine if you're not sleepy. If you're not sleepy, go to work quickly, because you got up late, so there is no food to eat this morning, hee hee. Of course, if you want to eat, I won't stop you. Seeing Luo Yi's fearful appearance, Bob smiled with satisfaction, then took out the food belonging to Luo Yi from the wooden bucket and threw it into the toilet next to him. What the hell is this place? Looking at Bob walking out, Luo Yi couldn't help asking a question in his heart. The calmed Luo Yi now understands that this is not his home anymore, and even Ta's body has changed, his body has become smaller. Judging from my height, my mind power should be around 11 or 2 years old, and my whole body is dirty and smells bad. I don't even have any decent clothes on my body, only a tattered piece of clothing. Hemp leather shirt's cover. This is, even if Luo Yi is reluctant to accept it, he also knows that he should have crossed over, and he has crossed over without any basis in his sleep. What is even worse is that the identity of crossover is still a slave. Luo Yi was originally one of the vast otakus on the earth, and he was the kind of abandoned house without any specialties. He dropped out of school just after graduating from high school. Although he worked abroad for a year, but because of his withdrawn and lazy personality, he liked cheating and cheating. It didn't take long for him to be pushed out and made things difficult by the people around him. In the end, unable to bear it anymore, he quit his original job and bought a computer with the small money he earned from his part-time job, becoming one of the many abandoned houses. The next day is to watch anime every day, play games, live as a gangster, and find a job in the Navy on YY, which is the kind of job that follows the crowd every day to gain popularity for others, and type for others, reluctantly mix it up. But it's just for food and clothing. As for something as tall as a girlfriend, hee hee. If you don't have money, you still want to have a girlfriend. What beautiful things do you want? Go play with Xiaozhou and Xiaoyu yourself. But fortunately, Luo Yi is not the kind of person with big ambitions. He is more of a small-minded person. Although his life is a bit deserted, he is better at ease and comfort. Luo Yi didn't intend to destroy such a life. According to his words, even if he lived like this for the rest of his life, he was willing. As for the super tall thing like crossing the road, he didn't even think about it. After all, not everyone can become the protagonist. As a waste house who knows nothing and has a low IQ. It's okay to travel through parallel worlds, but if you travel to the other worlds where the weak eat the strong, you may be killed if you don't survive 3 chapters. If there is a system cheat class, he may live a little better, but he will definitely not reach too high a height. At most, he will continue to live and eat in other world, and he will live by it. Therefore, when Luo Yi was envious and jealous of Chuan by those who are high-minded and low-handed, he avoided him like a flood of beasts, and he didn't want to transcend at all. But the reality is so cruel, the more you don't want it, the more it will happen. The thing Luo Yi didn't want to happen the most happened to him, and it's still the kind of soulware without cheating and no memory of the other party. The saddest thing is to work hard, but slaves also have a little benefit, then no one will care about his sudden change. If he transcends into the status of aristocrats, he may be regarded as evil in this feudal slave society and be cremated. Now, the only thing to do is to first understand the surrounding situation and see what kind of world he has crossed into. The only information he has control now is that this is a society that is still in the period of slavery. As for whether it is a high demon or in the low magic world, he would not be clear. Yo! Bob helped you vent with those little devils again. Really, how do you say they are also our backup personnel? You bully them like this, be careful to be killed by them in the future. An overseer dressed in the same way as Bob looked at Bob, who came out of the old warehouse refreshed, and laughed at him in a low voice. Asterisk. Chapter 2. Humph. In the face of the youth's ridicule, Bob snorted disdainfully at him, and then, when he passed the youth, he kicked it directly. Although the young man did not expect that Bob would actually do it, he still reacted at the first moment, and his arms folded and instantly clamped Bob's attack. Unfortunately, because the defense time was too hasty, Bob's heavy kick still staggered him and took a few steps back. After taking a little advantage, Bob immediately stopped attacking, and instead of chasing after the victory, he laughed and said, "Gaz, don't forget who taught you. Remember, it's best to keep your mind off Lao Zi's business in the future, so I don't recommend letting you experience Lao Zi's power again, ha ha ha." After he finished speaking, Bob shook his head proudly and didn't care about Gaz, whose face was ashen behind him. Nib. Brainless extraterritorial barbarians, sooner or later I will make you all pay the price. Gaz, who had eaten a dull loss, looked at the distant figure, his eyes were full of resentment, and his heart was secretly ruthless. Call. Gaz took a deep breath and relieved his mood. Today, he has more important things to do. He found something very interesting last night. Thinking of this, Gaz's steps into the warehouse couldn't help but speed up a bit, and there was a wicked smile on the corner of his mouth. The thing he found last night was an incredible treasure in such a place, and he was still waiting to receive it. As soon as he walked in, Gaz saw Luo Yi, who was choking on the ground like a maggot, and the children around were swarming around the wooden buckets with food, swarming and grabbing a small amount of food, and there were even a few people fight for half a loaf of brown bread. No one chose to help Luo Yi, who fell to the ground. Those who grabbed the food all returned to their places, carefully ate a small amount of food, and looked at him indifferently. Everyone here knows that he will not live long. This kind of thing is very common here. There are several people like Luo Yi almost every month. Newcomers come in. Only those children who have just arrived here will choose to help those who are punished, but in the end, because they could not eat enough and did not complete the share of the day, they finally came to the punishment and took themselves in, so after a period of time is familiar with the environment, just when no one will help those law-abiding. After lying on the ground for a while, Luo Yi felt the pain on his body eased slightly. Perhaps he gradually adapted to the new body. At this moment, Luo Yi felt that he was hungry enough to eat a cow. The hungry Luo Yi followed the steps to the wooden bucket containing the food. Although he knew that Bob threw his own food into the toilet, he still held his luck and hoped that others could leave some food for him. Unfortunately, reality once again told him what cruelty was, because what he saw was an empty wooden barrel with no juice left. Suddenly, a feeling of sadness came to his heart again. Luo Yi turned his eyes to others to see if he could get some food from other children, but the person who responded to Luo Yi was indeed looking at him with hatred. It seemed that as long as Luo Yi dared to grab his food, they would fight with Luo Yi desperately. Looking at his muscular counterpart, his little brother's calf, and his weak body, Luo Yi immediately gave up the thought of grabbing food from other people's mouths, and instead squatted in the corner, full of sadness in his heart. Does he really want to be the first transmigrator to be starved to death? This is too abusive. Thinking of this, Luo Yi secretly wiped away tears again. This is already the second time I've come to another world to cry, I'm really vulnerable. Although he tried his best to restrain the tears in his eyes, he couldn't stop the tears. On the contrary, Luo Yi, who had blurred his eyes, did not realize that the overseer Gaz, who had already entered, had come to him slowly. Feeling that he was shrouded in shadows again, Luo Yi's body trembled, and he raised his head in fear, only to find a person wearing the same clothes as Bob who beat him before standing in front of him. You! Come out with me! Gaz saw Luo Yi raised his head and saw his appearance, and his heart suddenly became hot. However, there are many people here, and it is not a place to talk, so he suppressed the excitement in his heart and said indifferently. My God! Where did I offend you, how come another? Gaz's indifferent tone immediately inspired Luo Yi, the corners of his eyes twitched fiercely, and he cursed wildly in his heart, if you want to be such a fool, you have to do it again. Yes, what's the matter, big, my lord? Luo Yi's frightened tone stuttered. What so much nonsense, if you want to get up quickly. Gaz said impatiently, his tone became even colder, and he even slapped directly. As long as Luo Yi dared to say no, he would definitely be beaten again in the next second. Yes. Yes, my lord, I understand, please don't hit me. I will be obedient. Facing the threat of being beaten again, Luo Yi quickly stood up and followed behind Gaz. Facing such a well-behaved and obedient Luo Yi, Gaz felt for the first time that Bob's training method that he hated so much was really good. Gaz took Luo Yi to a corner where no one was around, then stretched his hand into his arms, ready to take out what he had prepared. Luo Yi closed his eyes desperately, looking like he was ready to be beaten at any time, but what was waiting was not a slap from Gaz, but a faint smell of meat. Luo Yi only opened his eyes at this time, and found that Gaz was looking at him with a smile, and in his hand was a chicken drumstick wrapped in greased paper, and stretched out his hand to him. Hey! Do you want to eat? Gollum! The hungry Luo Yi saw the chicken legs and swallowed involuntarily, thinking to himself. There are still good people in this world, it turns out that his previous indifference was just a fake. That is really good. Luo Yi is very grateful to Gaz at this moment, and he is just about to pay his respects to Big Brother. After all, even before Luo Yi's previous life, he couldn't eat chicken legs every day with his economic conditions, let alone the situation where he is hungry now. So I quickly nodded desperately. Think. Can you give it to me? Luo Yi still looked at Gaz with some fear, and asked him carefully. If you want, then take it. Don't be polite to me. Gaz's voice was full of temptation to Luo Yi, he still looked at Luo Yi with a smile, and pushed the chicken leg forward again, signaling Luo Yi to eat it. Thank you, sir. You are such a good person. Hearing Gaz's words, Luo Yi hurriedly sent Gaz a good person card, rubbed his hand on his clothes, and was about to reach out to grab the chicken leg, but just as he was about to grab the chicken leg, he was caught by Gaz. One dodged. Sir, you. Luo Yi pretended to be unknown and looked at Gaz, but his heart gradually became uneasy, because Gaz was obviously not as good as he thought, and he gave himself chicken legs with conditions. You can, but you have to promise to be my woman. Gaz finally showed his fangs, he bent down and put his head in Luo Yi's ear, whispering to Luo Yi. I have a sentence MMP, I don't know if I should say it or not. Hearing Gaz's words, Luo Yi's chrysanthemum and flowers suddenly tightened, and his heart suddenly felt like 10,000 grass and mud horses running wildly. It's too late, this guy is still a gay man. When he is a woman, is there a mistake? Lao Zi is a man. Suddenly, Luo Yi seemed to have thought of something, widened his eyes suddenly, and squeezed his legs slightly. The familiar feeling did not appear, instead, there was an unfamiliar feeling of emptiness. I have a big slot. It's really messed up this time. Immediately, Luo Yi seemed to be struck by a thunderbolt, and the whole person was stunned, because he found that his little brother was really gone, and the body he passed through was not a man. Play him. Aren't you surprised? Have you always thought that you were well hidden and shouldn't be discovered, but unfortunately, your inferior disguise didn't hide it from my eyes, hasn't your play started to develop? Gaz stretched out a finger and squeezed Luo Yi's chest. Suddenly, a sharp pain came over. Ugh! Luo Yi's face turned blue in pain, even more painful than the whip he suffered before. Pain! Feeling out of breath, Luo Yi lightly pressed his chest with his hand. He felt as if there was something inside, and the pain was unbearable. That's right, her body has already started to develop. Luo Yi immediately noticed this fact. As a 12-year-old girl, her development has obviously been relatively slow, and now, her body has finally entered a physiological process that every girl or man or woman will go through adolescence. Remember how you looked in pain after being bumped here by that kid last night? That's where your gender was exposed. Even though you made yourself ugly on purpose, I can still see your general appearance. You really so cute. Gaz rubbed Luo Yi's face and said to her jokingly. Before Luo Yi could speak, Gaz continued, Chapter 3. If you let the boss know that you are a girl, you said what he would do, you should know what happened to the girls in the gang, hee. There are quite a few girls on West Street. You must be very popular when you get there. Maybe you can become the eldest sister in the women's gang. But how long can your beauty last, and your beauty is only for a few short years. When you are old and can't make money, you will be kicked out, and then freeze to death, starve to death in a certain street in the corner. But if you choose to be my woman, none of the above will happen. I can promise to marry you. Not only do you not have to go hungry, you will have meat to eat every day, let alone work. Even, when I seize the position of the gang leader in the future, you will become my gang leader wife and enjoy the supreme rights and glory. Think about it, it is better to be a woman for me, or to die miserably in the end, eh? Gaz continued to persuade Luo Yi with a very gentle tone in his ear, and the threat in his tone was self-evident. What a good move! Even as a modern person who is used to seeing all kinds of intrigues and tricks, facing Gaz's remarks, he couldn't help but admire a good trick in his heart. Seriously, if other ordinary girls heard that Fan intimidated, they would be too frightened. Even if they reluctantly, they would obey him, and even Luo Yi would be frightened for the tragic future after listening to it. Is cold all over? She really came out of the wolf's den first and was like a tiger's mouth. She thought she would meet a good person to help her, but she didn't expect that he was a more sinister guy. Before that person was at most a fierce tiger who took bullying people as the basis of his happiness, then this one was a cunning wolf like a fox who wanted to eat himself clean. However, although Gaz is insidious, he is a bit brainless, Long Aotian. He is too conceited, and even dares to reveal to her that he wants to seize the position of the gang leader in the future. Is he really not afraid to sue her? What? However, although the complaint made Luo Yi's heart move for a moment, she immediately strangled the thought to death. After all, her identity is here, she is only the lowest slave among the gang, and Gaz it is indeed one of the managers, even if she goes to sue, but does anyone believe it? And even if Gaz succeeds, he can still shake his identity out. Then, as Gaz said, Luo Yi can't even think about such a tragic day. Life is definitely better than death. Therefore, Luo Yi doesn't dare to refuse Gaz's good intentions now, otherwise, her identity may be discovered by Bob and Gaz's boss, without waiting until noon. However, even if she accepts Gaz's proposal, what can she do? She still can't change her destiny of being played with by others, even if he promised to marry her, but the words of such a person are not worth believing at all, and she will definitely be defeated by him in the end. The fate of abandonment, no matter what, she doesn't want to be someone else's plaything. But when he thought about the fate of the medieval women living on the streets he had seen on the internet before, Luo Yi felt the hair was full of hairs, and a chill hit the soles of his feet. For a while, Luo Yi fell into a dilemma. Luo Yi was confused. Does she still have any meaning to live? Why don't she commit suicide? Maybe she can go back. Hey! What's your choice? Not knowing what Luo Yi was thinking of Gaz, he looked down at her with her head down and said nothing. A wicked smile tugged at the corners of her mouth, because he knew Luo Yi was fighting fiercely in her heart at this time. Luo Yi's face was full of hesitation. She raised her small hand tremblingly, and slowly stretched it out to Gaz, but her goal was not the chicken leg on Gaz's hand, but the one pinned to his waist. Short sword. I don't know if Gaz did it on purpose. She really didn't want to accept a man just for a bite, so she wanted to commit suicide. The short sword that flashed with cold light could be reached as long as she raised her hand, but when she stretched out her hand to the short sword, she felt it was extremely difficult. She didn't want to die. Ask yourself, even in such a bad situation, even if she may become someone else's plaything at any time, Luo Yi still doesn't want to die. She still seems to want to live well, just like the saying that it is better to die than to live, but to live is to let go. She is better off dead. Cut. Since you don't want to, then I can go. Anyway, I can still get you at that time, but at that time, it is not me that you need to serve, but a group of people. Seeing that Luo Yi was still hesitating, Gaz made an impatient expression on his face, and pretended to be leaving. Don't go. The same, can't agree. Luo Yi, who was taken aback by Gaz's tone, finally summoned up the courage to commit suicide and disappeared without a trace, never to mention it again. And the little hand that stretched out involuntarily grabbed Gaz's cuff, preventing him from leaving, and then said the word agree with great difficulty. Ha! Take the lesser of the two evils, and what the teacher said is absolutely right. It is too easy for an intellectual like me to deceive this little barbarian. Hearing Luo Yi's agreement, Gaz immediately showed a hint of joy on his face, and at the same time he felt a little more pride in his heart, because before he was caught by the crocodile gang, he was a member of the world government and went to school in a country with a culture of education. People, it is easy to deal with the barbarians from outside the territory who are avoiding these poor villages. Although Gaz was overjoyed, the unhappy on his face still did not disappear, so he asked Luo Yi directly. What do you agree with? I agree, to be your woman. In the face of Gaz's questioning, Luo Yi's tears flowed from line to line. Although she was helpless, she could only helplessly say the words that made her ashamed. However, after saying these words for some reason, Luo Yi's tense heart was relieved. Maybe this is the sense of relief after the downline is broken. After all, once a person's downline is broken, she can do anything crazy. After all, saying this sentence means that she has completely abandoned the integrity of all men. To give up the last bit of her dignity, and let her become a person who has no bottom line and will do anything in order to live. Very good. Gaz rubbed Luo Yi's head and returned to his amiable look, then pushed the chicken leg into Luo Yi's arms and said. Eat it quickly. Otherwise, it will be cold in a while. Ugh! Smelling the aroma of the chicken drumstick, Luo Yi grabbed the drumstick and devoured it. The empty stomach was filled with chicken legs, and finally it was no longer so uncomfortable. However, Luo Yi's tears could not be stopped. She paid a huge price for this food. This made her really unacceptable. Only by crying bitterly could she calm down the grievances in her heart. She didn't want to travel at all, so why did she choose her? By the way, do you have a name? Gaz hugged Luo Yi with one hand and placed it on the wooden box beside him. Being hugged by Gorgeous, Luo Yi twisted a little uncomfortably, but found Gaz's strength, and it was troublesome to even move. His arms were as powerful as iron pliers, and he immediately answered honestly. My name is... I don't have a name. Luo Yi originally wanted to say his name, but when he thought of his identity, he thought it was better not to say it. Don't you have a name? Then let me think of one for you. Gaz was overjoyed when he heard that Luo Yi had no name. Isn't this the time to show off his culture? Well, I'll listen to you. Luo Yi, who was focusing on the chicken drumstick in his hand, was not in the mood to pay any attention to Gaz, and nodded subconsciously. Well, how about you call Baccarat? My hometown here means luck, let you always remember how lucky you are to meet me. Gaz thought for a while and said to Luo Yi, but the self-righteous attitude made Luo Yi's mouth twitch, and after hearing the meaning of his name and Gaz's explanation, he growled in his heart. Can you stop being so narcissistic? Lao Zi's biggest misfortune is to meet you, okay? Luo Yi was struck by Gaz's narcissism and shamelessness. She couldn't wait to jump up and beat him to death. However, when she thought about being kicked out of her stomach by the same foreman as him, the huge difference in force made her only dare to use this kind of force. I thought about the words in my heart, and didn't dare to say it at all. Moreover, in the future, I have to rely on this guy to take care of me, and I am thinking of other ways to escape, so I can only pretend to be happy and get up with Gazigzu and Wei Snake. Baccarat? What a nice name, thank you sir, I will be called Baccarat in the future. Hee hee. You just like it. Gaz laughed happily when he saw Baccarat's gesture. That lord, you just talked about your hometown, aren't you from here? Baccarat can now see that Gaz is a person who likes to show off her knowledge very much, but this also gave Baccarat an opportunity, and she began to quietly inquire about the world from Gaz**. Chapter 4. Of course. My hometown is one of the member countries of the world government. You may not know what the world government is. The world government is a super international organization with the world's largest army and more than 170 member countries. Founded 800 years ago by the ancestors of 20 celestial dragons. Sure enough, just as Baccarat thought, when he heard his question, Gaz really started to show off with a proud face, and said a few words that Baccarat was very familiar with. However, when talking about celestial dragons, Gaz's face that could not be seen by Baccarat showed a resentful expression. Obviously Gaz was not as proud of the existence of celestial dragons as he said. World government, 170 allied countries, celestial dragons, amazing. Baccarat had heard Gaz's introduction, and repeated his words word by word, his tone full of admiration, but a glint of light flashed in Baccarat's eyes, but he couldn't help thinking. Then this is not the world of One Piece. It turned out that I was not traveling through an unknown world, but a familiar two-dimensional world. It seems that I have finally found a way to escape the predicament. Devil fruit, as long as I can get a powerful devil fruit, I can get rid of it these bastards. You don't understand other things, but you should have heard of celestial dragons. After all, most of the money we earn from hard work every year is handed over to them as heavenly gold. Celestial dragons is what caused us to end up like this. The culprit. Speaking of this, Gaz's tone was full of resentment, and even the arm holding Baccarat began to exert force involuntarily. It seemed that Gaz was very resentful of the oppression method of a big country like Heavenly Gold. I go. Is this guy an animal? With such strength, he is about to strangle Lao Zi to death. The oxygen that was squatting inward was constantly being squeezed out, feeling that it was about to be squeezed out by Gaz, and Baccarat finally calmed down, and quickly reminded Gaz loudly. Oh! Big Lord, Nibble! Please be cold. Calm down, you hurt me. Hey? Sorry. Are you all right? Hearing Baccarat's intermittent screams, Gaz finally remembered that Baccarat was still in his arms, and quickly relaxed the strength of his arms. Who? Whoa! Whoa! Baccarat, who was almost killed by holding his sister in his arms, lay down weakly on Gaz's body, took a deep breath of fresh air, and replied to Gaz in a weak tone. I'm fine, my lord, it's just a pain in my chest and mouth, it'll be fine in a while, you. Jeezy, where are you going to die? Just when Baccarat wanted to continue to ask something else, a roar full of momentum came from near the pier, interrupting her words. Hearing this voice, Baccarat clearly felt that the body of Gaz who was holding him trembled, which obviously startled him. After all, his deal with Baccarat was not shady. After you finish eating, go back quickly. I will pick you up to live with me at night, and remember to wash yourself. I don't like dirty girls. Gaz hurriedly put down Baccarat, pinched her little face, and then whispered to her, then quickly turned around and ran out. It is good. When Baccarat heard Gaz's order, she nodded, and then seemed to think of something, and suddenly called out to Gaz with a pale face. Originally, she thought that even if she agreed to Gaz's matter, she would have to wait for her for a while. When you grow up, it will be fulfilled. GZ. You don't want this month's salary anymore, do you? Why don't you come over to meet the cargo ship? The loud voice came again. Hey! It's here! Gaz shouted at the pier, then lightly rubbed Baccarat's little head, and said. I know what you're worrying about, don't worry, you've grown up and you're old enough to get married. After that, Gaz ignored what Baccarat said, turned around and left, leaving only Baccarat in a mess in the wind. The meaning is obvious, you can do it yourself, don't let him down. Grass. Are the people here all birds and beasts, getting married at the age of 13, how crazy is this? I didn't feel it when I saw pirates, but I came across and found that all the people here are birds. Beast. After there was no one around, Baccarat stomped wildly, pulled, stopped, her hair, and screamed in a low voice. In fact, what Baccarat does not know is that not all girls in the region will get married at 12, just because the place where she lives is outside the jurisdiction of the world government. This is a small border country that is not under the jurisdiction of the world government. But as a small frontier country, in order not to be invaded by the behemoth world government, they can only offer a lot of treasures every year to seek peace. It is precisely because of this extremely heavy taxation, coupled with various wars, the people here, the average life expectancy is only about 30 years old. If the girls don't get married and have children sooner, and there is not enough population to grow up, I am afraid that the country here will perish soon. For the sake of sufficient population, the legal marriage threshold in this country has dropped again and again. Now, as long as girls have menarche, you can get married at will. Cut. Isn't it just being fed by a man? It's no big deal, just be bitten by a dog. Baccarat gritted her teeth and stomped her foot, and finally scolded in a low voice, and walked to the warehouse where she lived. There was no way, she could only comfort herself with such words now. I don't even have the courage to commit suicide. Therefore, Baccarat has now completely begun to give up on herself. However, the unfortunate thing is not over yet. As soon as Baccarat returned to the warehouse, he was surrounded by 3 tall boys and blocked them to the wall. You! What do you want to do? Don't mess around, I have a backer now. His back was already pressed against the cold wall, and Baccarat, who knew that there was no way out, forced himself to calm down and threatened the boys in a low voice. Everyone heard what Xiao Hung Mao said. Who he thought he was, actually found a backer, ha ha ha. The lead boy shook Baccarat's head vigorously and turned her head around, almost losing her footing. Ha 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 ha. The others also laughed when they heard the boy's words. Obviously Baccarat's insincere words showed that others thought she was just pretending. Tell me. What did Gaz-sama tell you to go out for? Then, the boy in the lead suddenly turned his face, strangled Baccarat's neck fiercely, pushed her against the wall, and asked Baccarat. I advise you, it's better, let go of me, or you, will definitely, regret it. It's different if she has a backer. If it was before, Baccarat would definitely explain everything without saying a word, but now she is not afraid of these people who dare to threaten her, but instead threatens the head boy with intermittent exits. Ha ha ha. Let me regret it, I will ask again, what did Gaz-sama tell you to go out for? This time, the boy who was pinching Baccarat's neck directly picked up Baccarat, put his face in front of her and asked Baccarat. Sniff sniff. This taste. You kid actually ate meat. UBD, You don't know how to honor big brother with such a good thing, you dare to eat it yourself, do you want to die like that? As soon as the boy got close, he smelled the fleshy aroma that had not dissipated from Baccarat's body, and was immediately angry. Damn, Lao Zi is eating black bread like dirt here, you go to eat meat. As the saying goes, there is no harm without comparison. The lead boy dared to pick up his fragile little heart, received 10,000 critical hits, and almost went crazy, and he was about to slap him without a word. Well. Facing the whistling slap, Baccarat subconsciously locked her neck and closed her eyes. Do you want to know what I said to her that much? Just when Baccarat thought she was going to be beaten again, Gaz's voice suddenly reached her ears. Woo! The savior came, scared Lao Zi to death. Gaz! Gaz, Lord Gaz, no, I just wanted to make a joke with him, nothing else. When the boy heard Gaz's voice, his face was covered in cold sweat, and now he finally knew who Baccarat's backer was. Although he could be the king among these children, it was no fart to Gaz. Killing him will have no effect. Chapter 5. Joke. If this is also called a joke, then let me make a little joke with you too. After Gaz finished speaking, Baccarat saw Gaz's figure move, and the speed was so fast that he couldn't see his figure clearly, only that Gaz flashed in front of the boy and came to the boy. Bang! I saw Gaz lifted his foot and kicked the boy's stomach, and the huge force directly kicked the boy into the air for a few seconds. Kaffa! After the boy fell to the ground, his whole body twitched and lay on the ground, his expression was dull, his nose and tears all came out, and he even lost control of his bowels and urine. Is this a funny joke? Gaz squatted in front of the boy and looked at him with a smile. Hee hee. Really, cough cough. It's funny, thank you Gaz-sama for the reward. When the boy heard Gaz's words, instead of showing any resentment, he started to flatter Gaz with a smile that was uglier than crying. My grass! I feel that what I have done is enough to lose my integrity. I didn't expect that there are people in the world who are more shameless than me. These people really can do everything. The boy's reaction really startled Baccarat. The tone of voice said, if he hadn't seen Gaz punching his shit out with his own eyes, Baccarat would have thought Gaz had done him much good. If this is put into modern times, it would be unbelievable. They have been labeled like this. Although they may not dare to speak ruthlessly on the spot, a set of CNM/NMB/NMSL quality for 3 consecutive times is definitely unbearable. But the boy's behavior just now was like being beaten on the left side of the face, and then he stretched out the right side of the face and was beaten. He even cared about whether the hand of the person who beat him hurts. How can there be such a cheap person in this world? In the final analysis, it was too short for Baccarat to come to this world, and it is not clear where the real cruelty lies in this world. In this world where the strong eat the weak, if you don't have enough strength to show resentment and dissatisfaction to the strong, then the only end is to die. Slaves like them whose backbone has been broken long ago, just like Baccarat, have no courage to die for their own dignity, and they dare to do anything in order to survive. Very good. As long as you like it. Gaz was very satisfied with the boy's performance and did not choose to continue to embarrass him. This kid is handed over to you. Just don't kill him. Gaz stood up reflexively, then patted Baccarat on the head and said to her. Everyone will gather at the dock in 10 minutes. The goods have arrived. After finishing speaking, Gaz didn't even look at the boy who fell on the ground and pulled out, but without fear, he pulled out the dagger from his waist and gave it to Baccarat, then walked out. However, his performance has already pronounced the boy's death sentence, because once he is seriously injured, he can't get up at all in 10 minutes, or even can't complete the task in the next heavy work, then his only end is death. Either starvation or exhaustion. I see. Baccarat did not hesitate, took the dagger directly, and was not afraid that Gaz would be wary of her. This is not the mortal world of the previous life. In a one-on-one situation, a dagger can kill anyone. Given the difference in strength between Baccarat and Gaz, let alone a dagger, even if you give her a gun, she can't beat Gaz. At that speed, Baccarat's eyes can't keep up with Gaz's movements. If you can't even see clearly, it is even more said to be attacked. In the society in the past life full of laws and morals, everyone's desires were infinitely suppressed, and they could only live in a net full of rules and regulations. But such things as desire cannot be eliminated by suppression. On the contrary, the more suppressed it is, the stronger it will become. Although I don't know what other people are like, when Baccarat lived in his previous life, he always felt that there was a demon full of evil thoughts living in his heart. It always gave him some very evil thoughts from time to urge him to do it. Some bad things. For example, if you meet someone who is unhappy with you, you want to kill him. For example, when you see a good thing, you want to take it for yourself, and you want to grab it. Another example is seeing couples show their affection on the street and sprinkle dog food. Baccarat especially wants to burn them to death. It's a pity that he was just an otaku without any power at the time, and he didn't dare to do it because he didn't dare to break the law, so in the end, all these evil thoughts were gone. And now, she has come to a society without laws and morals, a world where the evil in everyone's heart is magnified, and now he has enough power to decide life and death. At this moment, Baccarat's inner desire and desire are like a wild horse that has run away, and it can no longer be contained. So after getting the dagger, Baccarat went straight to the guts, picked up the dagger and walked towards the boy. She wanted revenge for what the boy had done to her before. No. No, big red-haired brother, please forgive me, I don't dare anymore, I beg you to spare me a dog's life, you only need to say a word in the future and let me do anything. The boy looked at Baccarat who came up with the dagger, and suddenly arched back desperately like a bug. It wasn't that he didn't want to resist, but it was a pity that the direct kick from Gaz just now made him unable to stand, even more so. Not to mention rebelling against a man with a dagger. And the younger brothers before him didn't dare to come forward to help after seeing the boy's end, and could only watch Baccarat keep walking towards the original eldest brother. Red hair. Baccarat raised her eyebrows, although she knew that her red hair was very conspicuous, and she no longer knew her name, but being called the title of a little ruffian like Red Hair, Baccarat was really upset. No. No. I was wrong, it's not the red-haired brother, you should be the red-haired, you should be called the red-haired brother. With the boy's observant ability, he clearly saw Baccarat's dissatisfaction, so he immediately changed his tune. Is this what it feels like to be respected? Very nice. Seeing that the people around her are afraid of her, although she looks like a fox and a tiger, there is still a hint of darkness in Baccarat's heart. A seed of desire for power and power has deeply rooted in her heart, just waiting for it to grow strong the day of growing up. Unfortunately, when she thought of the price she had to pay for this, Baccarat's eyes couldn't help darkening, and she also felt dull about revenge on the boy. Hey! Forget it this time. Don't mess with me in the future. Baccarat sighed, put down the dagger with a gloomy expression, came to the corner and sat down alone. His eyes were full of sadness, thinking if there was any way to escape tonight's sleeping. 10 minutes passed in a flash. Gaz came in again, ordered everyone to go out to work. It was time for work. During these 10 minutes, Baccarat mustered up the courage to attempt suicide several times, but after raising the dagger to his heart, he couldn't muster the courage to stab him no matter what. What a waste! I can't even muster this courage. In the end, Baccarat had to laugh at herself, then stood up and went out with the army. The depressed Baccarat did not find that all the people who went out with her were avoiding her subconsciously. Just because they were frightened by Baccarat's previous actions of raising a dagger to aim at his heart from time to time, obviously in their eyes, Baccarat was not trying to commit suicide, but was practicing how to kill with a dagger. Anyone willing to mess with? Even the boy who had bad intentions because of Baccarat's previous weak actions also stopped his actions and did not dare to provoke Baccarat. Baccarat didn't know his unintentional actions, but he actually eliminated a disaster for himself, otherwise she would not be knowing whether to cry or laugh. Have you spared that kid? What a ridiculous kindness! Looking at Baccarat, who was following briskly by his side, and the boy who was carefully hiding in the team not to let him find out, Gaz couldn't help but muttered something in a low voice, not knowing what he was thinking. Sir! What did you say? I didn't hear it. Although Baccarat heard Gaz's muttering, he didn't understand what Gaz said, so he couldn't help but ask. You shouldn't let that kid go. Because he won't appreciate you for sparing his life at all, but will find a chance to take revenge on you again. Gaz glanced at Baccarat and said in a serious tone. Aim. Say it early. I said earlier, how could I not kill him? At that time, it was just because she was in love with the situation, that she suddenly had no interest in bullying others, but now it's too late even if Baccarat wants to kill him. However, saying this can't increase a man's favorability. As a girl, you should properly show your kindness. As a woman who has no resistance, she must know how to disguise herself. Because, no man would like a woman who is insidious, cunning, and cruel, but those silly and sweet are the most popular heroines in the novels and movies. This is what Baccarat, who used to be a man, knows best, so Baccarat's face suddenly showed an expression as if he had made a big mistake, and bowed his head to apologize to Gaz. I'm so sorry. My lord, but I really don't want to hurt anyone. Asterisk. Chapter 6. Hey! Is that so? Sure enough, after hearing Baccarat's words, Gaz looked at Baccarat's expression suddenly a little gentle, and even the walking distance was pulled in a lot. If it is said that Gaz had no feelings for Baccarat before, but only possessed, then now he has begun to have a heart for Baccarat. Ding! Gaz's favorability towards you has increased by 10. As if hearing a non-existent system prompt, Baccarat instantly felt the change in Gaz's attitude towards himself. In fact, Gaz's thoughts, Baccarat can probably understand. After all, in this world where the strong eat the weak, if you don't want to eat people, the final result will only be eat by others, as a way to stand out from many slaves. Gaz, who knows this best. However, the more people who obey the law of the jungle, the more they want to have a pure and clean soil that only belongs to themselves, where they don't need to intrigue or kill, there is their safe haven. Therefore, many villain bosses, sadists, and murderers in film and television are attracted by the kind of girl who is as pure as a white lotus. Even, this is no exception for women. Kun can't see the super shaking queen in the red eyes who doesn't even feel sad when his father dies, Ace Day, not also by the pure smile of the male protagonist, Tajmi moved the true feelings, even to die together. Just because everyone's heart is longing for purity and beauty, no matter how evil this person is, he still has his own beautiful memories in his heart, and the more people who follow these memories, the more they can move a person. Once they appear, they can easily conquer their hearts without doing almost anything. It's just that Gaz never imagined that Baccarat, who looked like a white lotus to him, was actually a scheming BCH. The inside was really black, and it was the kind of black that had already rotted to the core, and what Baccarat did. Everything is just to escape his grasp. It seems that this time I really gambled correctly. What a surprise. Baccarat couldn't help but secretly rejoiced in her heart. Only by constantly improving Gaz's tolerance for herself could she find a chance to escape, but since she decided to act as a pure girl, the play had to continue. Yet, although I wanted to take revenge before, but after picking up the dagger, I didn't have the courage to stab it. Gaz-sama, am I weak? After speaking, Baccarat looked at Gaz with tears in her eyes. How pitiful and pitiful that look was. Hey! Forget it. Come here as you please. Anyway, as long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Gaz rubbed Baccarat's head helplessly and comforted her. Clam! How dare you say that? Do your family know that you are such a long Aotian, and you were startled by that roar in the morning? Baccarat resisted the desire to complain, put on a happy look, and said to Gazijiao Sheng, N. Thank you Gazide, I believe that the adults will protect me. Just as the two of them were talking, the slave team behind Gaz finally came to the dock where they were working. At this time, Bakura finally understood why a small leader like Gaz had a kind of superpower that was almost 2 or 3 times higher than that of ordinary people. Superhuman strength. This is not because Gaz is talented and wants to hide his strength, only to be a blockbuster and take the position of the leader of the gang, but because her power is very powerful. Gaz's power is not enough to act as the leader. Just looking at the huge playground of thousands of square meters next to the pier and the dozen double-track sailboats moored by the pier, Bakura can imagine the power that this gang can have. Along with the arrival of the Gaz group, there were other overseers, and they also brought their slaves one after another, but the slaves behind them were not all teenagers, but also young people and middle-aged people. What even surprised Bakura was that there were also a group of young and beautiful women in the team. All of them were young and beautiful, all of them had pink complexion, autumnal waves in their eyes, and their plump bodies were full of coquettishness. The surrounding slaves who had not touched a woman for several years were hooked on the spot and couldn't take their eyes off. All of them looked like Guang, and they even slack off in their work. I can't wait to lie down on this group of female women to see. And those women, who are unaware of the onlookers around them, are all gasping for breath, motionless. Only Bakura who carefully observes will find that these women's eyes are very numb, there is not much expression, and the eyebrows are between full of drowsiness, obviously had a busy night. It seems that they should be the women in the gang who do the skin and meat business. The people here are really crazy, and all these young girls have been ruined by the bastards. Seeing them, Bakura was full of anger, because she actually saw a girl about her own age among the group of women, but Bakura was unable to protect herself now, and she was even told to help others. Now she can only be glad that she is not one of them. Unlike children, these adult slaves, both men and women, wear a collar around their necks. Bakura knows this collar because when she first watched One Piece, this kind of collar has appeared many times. This is a kind of collar that will explode regardless of leaving the master or trying to dismantle it. It is a slave collar specially used to control slaves. As the slaves continued to work, the empty pier quickly became lively. Hundreds of people came and went with the major ships, and hundreds of living creatures were continuously loaded and unloaded from the major ships. Bakura also saw Bob, who had taught her a lesson in the group of supervisors. The people behind him were not teenagers, but a group of strong men with big arms and round waists. Why are they here? Gaz obviously knew the group of women, but he was also very surprised. After all, this group of women should live in another area, and most of them work at night and sleep during the day. They usually don't appear at the pier, even if they come, most of them are there. In the afternoon, look for the rich sailors on those passing ships. Follow me for a while, no matter what anyone says, you don't need to pay attention, keep away from those women, those bees have sharp eyes, don't let them discover your abnormality. Gaz, who had a bad premonition, said in Bakura's ear. Obviously, he was a little afraid of being discovered by the group of women. Do not worry. Yet. I see, Lord Gaz. Bakura nodded vigorously. She was also afraid of revealing herself. Although she didn't know how her original body escaped the initial investigation before, she obviously didn't have the ability. Moreover, following Gaz means she doesn't have to work. Although this body is even better than her previous body, but with the pampered life she lived before, to be honest, let her do heavy work, you don't really have the willpower to keep going. Next, Bakura began to follow Gaz, checking the goods around, and monitoring whether the slaves under Gaz were lazy. During this period of time, she also learned something about the gang boss from Gaz, and some other supervisors saw Bakura following Gaz. Although she was a little puzzled, she didn't say much. After all, as a small boss with a monthly salary, Gaz still has the right to do so. As long as the share is achieved, it doesn't matter how he works. In addition to Baccarat's pretty cute appearance, it's just that Gaz has something. Just a special hobby. The gang leader is 49 years old and no one knows his real name, but because he's as strong as a bear, and because there are rumors that someone saw the leader tear up a brown bear with his bare hands, everyone in the gang calls him that for Boss Broken Bear. Tear up a brown bear with your own hands. How much power is needed? The people here are really beasts. Baccarat was thinking about what a terrible guy Shattered Bear was, and then Shattered Bear appeared on his own, and the arrival of the boss Shattered Bear obviously caused a commotion among the slaves around them. They quickly stopped their work and gathered to the playground at the pier. Because, the boss of the Broken Bear will not appear at ordinary times. Usually at this time, the Broken Bear should still be sleeping in the room instead of appearing at the pier. The scrutiny of the Crack Bear came. She can't describe the appearance of Broken Bear. It is too fierce and terrible. Broken Bear cannot be called a person in Baccarat's eyes. The oppressive height of nearly 4 meters is full of oppression, and the scars all over the body are even more. It shows the achievements of the gang leader in the past. Although Broken Bear's temples and beards have begun to turn white due to the years, the fierce aura that has formed after countless fights still surrounds the whole body. Just where it goes, it is like a human-shaped beast. Speaking of which, Gaz is going to challenge this big guy. Why do I always seem to be a little overwhelmed? Baccarat carefully glanced at Gaz, who was beside him with a little arm and calf, feeling that he wouldn't slap the bear to death. Bang dang! As if to understand the meaning in Baccarat's eyes, Gaz's face suddenly became unbearable, and the angry Gaz directly gave Baccarat a shudder, and the painful Baccarat was about to burst into tears. Asterisk. Chapter 7. Quiet. Broken Bear's throat let out a low whine, and the vicious aura instantly enveloped the audience. In an instant, Baccarat felt her whole body go weak with fright, her legs trembled, and Baccarat even saw a few slaves in the front row directly urinating their pants. Captured by the aura of Broken Bear, Baccarat, who was too frightened to move, suddenly felt that her future was dark and she was about to despair. This is too cruel. How can I run away? Seeing that the audience was quiet, Broken Bear also started his speech. Tell everyone a bad news and a good news. The bad news is, the day after tomorrow is the annual golden delivery date, and the king's army will soon come to collect taxes. Speaking of this, everyone present became nervous, and the chilling atmosphere instantly filled the audience, and even the faces of the sleepy women were full of ruthless expressions. Because the old people present all know that whether the tax revenue is enough is related to the proof of whether they can continue to live in the future. If the gang can't make enough money when the army arrives, then the Legion of the Kingdom will definitely destroy them directly. After all, the gangs in this country are actually a small self-made country, and the king gave them such huge rights, not for them to enjoy, but for them to collect the heavenly gold. If the king can't get enough money by then, what's the use of asking the king for them? Let's give Laozi a dead ball. Therefore, once the gang can't get enough money to pay the tax, their only way is to start a war and go to other gangs to grab it. And the good news is that our Crack Bear gang's finances have been collected. Speaking of this, there was also a smile on the rude face of the Broken Bear. In the final analysis, the Broken Bear is getting older and no longer has the enterprising letter of his youth. Moreover, no matter how cruel he was when he was young, he will always be in his old age. Began to fantasize about a peaceful life, rather than go to fight. Oh! 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 Hooray! Hearing the news of the Crack Bear, the audience cheered, because it means that as long as they block the attacks of other gangs, they can spend another year in peace. Even the slaves are the same. After all, although the work is tiring, it is better than being killed at any time on the battlefield, and as a defender, they also have a huge advantage. However, although we have completed it, other gangs must be unable to complete the task, so in the next 3 days, they may attack the Broken Bear gang at any time. Therefore, all the staff are on alert and ready to fight at any time. Therefore, any gang members are not allowed to drink alcohol or play with women, so as not to be attacked by other gangs. The slaves can put down their work and have unlimited food supply, and distribute meat and rice. Ready to fight and defend our property. Of course, work must be done today. Then the Broken Bear released several orders that were good news for all slaves and bad news for the gang. Long live! Long live! Long live! It seems that today is a dodgy escape. Broken Bear's order is definitely good news for Baccarat. Broken Bear really came to bring a pillow as soon as she fell asleep. She was thinking about how to avoid sleeping tonight. Broken Bear stipulated 3. She is not allowed to play with women during the day. This rule is just for her, at least she can delay it for another 3 days. During the period, Baccarat secretly glanced at Gaz from the corner of his eye, and found that he did not seem disappointed or angry because of it, and even the subtle expression on his face did not change. Next, Broken Bear issued several orders to the crowd, and after assigning the task details to the supervisor and the gang members, he left alone. When the other people present saw Broken Bear leave, they returned to their original state, the work that should be done, the acceptance of goods that should be checked. However, because of the reward from Broken Bear, the enthusiasm of the slaves to work suddenly increased a lot. After all, there is no need to work for 3 days, and there is an unlimited supply of food and meat. This is unimaginable for slaves, so they also hope to finish today's work as soon as possible and go back to eat delicious food as soon as possible. Only those old people who are familiar with Broken Bears know that the money earned by the Broken Bears this year should not only meet the high taxes, but also have a lot of surplus. Meat, don't even want to drink porridge, go back to the warehouse and eat brown bread for me. It's a pity that those, women's branch, women also left to rest after Broken Bear left, otherwise they would at least be able to pass the eye addiction, which would be even more beautiful. Under the temptation of the fragrant roasted meat, the slaves worked very actively. They did not even need to be urged by the supervisors to finish the work. The work that would have taken a whole day to complete was not completed before 5 p.m. It's done. This watch line immediately made the supervisors very angry. After all, it took 4 or 5 hours less than usual. It is no longer a sentence that can be explained by working hard. Now, no matter how stupid the overseers are, they understand that even under their urging and whipping, these guys can still steal and be lazy, which makes them lose a lot of face. However, these slaves are now needed to guard the Broken Bear gang, and the overseers can't do anything about them, otherwise, these slaves will definitely be beaten in peacetime. Seeing that the slaves were almost scattered, Gaz also brought his Boy Scouts back to the warehouse where he lived, where the cooked meat and rice prepared by the cooks were already waiting for them. As soon as the teenagers saw the roasted meat and rice, they immediately ran back to their beds in excitement, took out their broken bowls, and formed a long line in front of the rice shop. You come with me. Just when Baccarat was going to line up for dinner, Gaz grabbed her. But, my lord, I'm so hungry. Although I ate a chicken leg in the morning, because the wharf did not provide meals at noon, the supervisors would go to the restaurant, and other gang members also brought their own food. But Baccarat and the others could only continue to work hungry, so now that she was already hungry, her chest was on her back, and when she smelled the smell of meat in the air, she suddenly felt even more hungry. Gaz glanced at the food on the pan with disdain, and then whispered in Baccarat's ear, "Okay, what's the food for those broken things? Come with me, I'll take you to clean up, and then give it to you buy a new set of clothes, your ragged clothes are so dirty right now." New clothes. These 3 words suddenly made Baccarat's eyes brighten. The clothes on her body were not only rough, but also very airy, which made her feel cold all the time and felt very insecure. So Baccarat didn't care about eating, and without thinking about it, he quickly put down the broken bowl in his hand, and trotted behind Gaz. Since Gaz gave himself all the clothes, wouldn't he be stingy with the money for a meal? Although Baccarat was thinking about her new clothes, Gaz did not take her to the market first, but came to the beach, then lit a cigarette by herself, and ordered. Go wash first. You are so dirty right now, you will be kicked out when you get there. Go wash in the sea. Baccarat asked hesitantly, it is late autumn now, although because of the geographical location, it is not cold even in winter, but going to the sea to take a bath is another matter. Gaz jokingly glanced at Baccarat and said, ha ha ha. Then where else do you want to go? The supervisors are taking a bath together, but do you dare to go? But, the water is too cold. I can't go down at all. Baccarat tried to dip his feet in the sea water, and then pulled it out immediately, the water was too cold. If you can't go down, that's fine, I'll help you. After speaking, Gaz picked up the back of Baccarat's neck and threw her into the sea. Ah! Lord Gaz, help, I can't swim. The first feeling of Baccarat falling into the water was not cold, but panic. As an inlander, he had never been in the water, not even in a swimming pool. This idiot! Gaz looked at Baccarat, who was constantly fluttering, and rolled his eyes immediately. He obviously just threw Baccarat into the shallow water, and the water level was not up to his waist. As long as she stood there would not be any danger. Stupid! Stand up! Gaz shouted and reminded Baccarat. Hearing Gaz's shout, Baccarat was stunned for a moment, then stood up tentatively, and found that her feet directly touched the beach. Her expression suddenly became embarrassed, and then she hid in the water and did not dare to come out. If you don't wash it quickly, it will be dark soon. The clothing store will close in a while. Oh! For her new clothes, Baccarat quickly took off the sackcloth on her body and quickly scrubbed the dirt on her body. I have to say, she is really a beauty. Baccarat has a slightly messy short red hair, and under the curved eyebrows of the same color, there are a pair of beautiful eyes with very rare emerald green pupils, a beautiful nose, and slightly pink cheeks. Red, dripping sakura peach-like sakura lips, flower-like melon seed face as crystal clear as jade, snowy jade-like snow skin as ice as snow. Asterisk. Chapter 8. No wonder Gaz will not let himself go, even coercion and temptation, as expected, I would not easily let go of such a beauty. Although Baccarat is still young, she can see that her skin is a complete beauty. As for the figure, she doesn't need to think about it. Don't forget that this is the world of One Piece, and this world has a few points. It's beautiful for women and weird for men. It can be said that the body shapes of women in the world of One Piece are all carved out of the same mold, and they are very special. Almost all women have the same body shape when they are young. Legs, not even fat. Maybe the only difference is whose chest is bigger, whose waist is thinner, or whose butt is more upturned and firmer. But once these women get old and reach the level of mother-in-law, their bodies will be out of shape very quickly. As long as they are old, no matter how beautiful they are when they are young, there will be various out of shapes. For example, some have become ugly, Dorial Doctor, Chopper's adoptive mother, some have become fat, Big Mom, some can even violate the theory of evolution of life, and even their bones will shrink several times. Nakin, 3D2Y in the theater, the ship doctor who uses traditional Hyuxia medicine boxing, any biologist who comes here will not be able to hold down the coffin board. Hey! What's the use of having such a beautiful face? It's not my girlfriend. Instead, I can only show it to others. Baccarat sighed very unhappily, then raised his fist and slammed into the bubbles in the water, causing his image in the water to quickly shatter. Hey! What is this? At this moment, Baccarat, who was cleaning his lower body, touched a raised piece of skin on the outside of his left leg. Looking down, he found that there was a dark red burn in the shape of a five-pointed star. Oh shit! Could this thing be the slave mark? This damn slave society! Looking at the completely artificial mark on the big leg, Baccarat immediately thought of something, and couldn't help but curse at the social form of One Piece. Baccarat, are you okay? It's already dark. Gaz squatted on the beach, picking up finger-sized crabs from time to time to eat, and there were already 5 or 6 cigarette butts under him. Obviously, he was a little impatient. Hi! Hi! That's good! Hearing Gaz's call, Baccarat, who was almost washed, didn't dare to stay any longer. He quickly rubbed the linen cloth that he had put on his body and put it on his body, and then, Kui Xian, walked out. As soon as the moonlight shone, Baccarat's already fair skin was like suet white jade at the moment, exuding a faint milky white soft light on the dim beach. Actually, the water on her body was reflecting the moonlight. Stunned. Call. A gust of cool wind hung over, directly destroying the scene of the beauty going out of the bath. Hiss. Baccarat quickly hugged her shoulders, curled up like a quail, and her body began to tremble involuntarily. I didn't feel too cold in the water just now, but I couldn't stand it when I came out. I really felt cold to the core. What an idiot, who told you to wear, Lucian, clothes? Aren't you afraid of catching a cold? Seeing Baccarat with frozen lips turning purple and trembling all over, Gaz couldn't help laughing and scolding, then quickly took off his coat and put it on Baccarat. Well! The fur coat with an unknown animal hair on the inner lining quickly blocked the cool wind, and the warm and comfortable feeling made Baccarat groan comfortably. So warm! Let's go! Otherwise, the clothing store will really close in a while. Gaz, who was only wearing a shirt, rubbed Baccarat's tangled hair, causing water to splash around, and then urged Baccarat. Got it! Lord Gaz! Baccarat and Gaz walked along the beach for about 10 minutes, and they saw a small town. There was a small town under the jurisdiction of the Broken Bear Gang. Life was all about the family members of the Broken Bear Gang and turned over everything. Tax-begging people for asylum. And the major leaders of the Broken Bear Gang, including Gaz, also live there. As soon as she entered the town, Baccarat found that the town was not the kind of poverty she thought, a town full of grief and dead people full of war, but a lively and prosperous scene. This made Baccarat can't help but sigh about the adaptation of human beings. Even under the pressure of the world government, he still lived a delicious life, and even lived a wonderful life belonging to the barbarian people. After walking for a few minutes again, Gaz led Baccarat to a shop. This was the clothing store that Gaz had said several times before. The shop owner was an old man with white hair and beard. Oh! It's Gaz-sama! You haven't been here for a while. What clothes do you want to choose this time? As soon as Gaz led Baccarat in, the owner of the ready-to-wear store said in a very eager tone. Well! I'm here to bring this kid to buy a suit. Gaz retracted his jacket and pointed at Baccarat. The owner of the ready-to-wear store glanced at the position of Baccarat's left leg, and after seeing the dark red 5-pointed star, he couldn't help pushing the round frame glasses on the bridge of his nose. If the little one guessed correctly, this child should be a slave at the dock. Bar! Is it really a slave mark? Baccarat's face was suddenly covered with a haze. Although the eyes of the clothing store owner were dim, Baccarat still felt that with this mark, she might be marked as a slave for the rest of her life. Ah! Ah! Why is the old guy talking so much? Do I need to report to your old man who I want to sell clothes to? Gaz stepped on the cushion of the thick footstool in the clothing store and looked at the owner of the clothing store unhappily. Don't dare! Don't dare! Of course, Gaz-sama does not need to report anything, but what kind of clothes do you want to buy for this child? Seeing Gaz getting angry, the owner of the clothing store quickly waved his hand, not daring to say more. Gaz touched his chin, looked around, and finally stared at a small purple cheongsam. This cheongsam is very delicate, but the hem of this cheongsam is only a few inches long, but it can cover the buttocks. That's the kind of cheongsam. The so-called chi mini skirt. That's it. Gaz pointed to the small cheongsam and said excitedly. This. If he remembered correctly, this cheongsam should be the sexy clothes he designed for the women's branch, in West Street. This is not clothes that can be worn on the street. Clothing store owner. Baccarat. Regarding the clothes Gaz chose, the two expressed deep speechlessness. The clothing store owner was obviously because of Gaz's bad taste. After all, in the eyes of the clothing store owner, the slaves were girls. Although Baccarat was cute, she was obviously a girl. Boy. And Baccarat blamed it because if she wore this dress, wouldn't it be equivalent to revealing her gender? She originally thought that Gaz would buy her a men's suit. Ano. Gaz's sama, I'm a boy. A boy. In the end, it was Baccarat who broke the silence and emphasized his gender. When he spoke, he turned his back on the clothing store owner and kept blinking at Gaz, beckoning him to pay attention and not to expose himself because of selfish desires. Well. What's wrong with boys, can't boys wear cheongsam? Gaz didn't seem to see Baccarat's constantly blinking eyes, but instead asked Baccarat in a natural way. My grass. What kind of IQ is this, boss? I really kneel, I'm just asking, boss. You are indeed the world of One Piece where 80% are 250%, not that 100% 90 is the cunning world of Lanja Bang. Your IQ really makes me doubt my life. Hearing Gaz's words, Baccarat understood Gaz's intention. Gaz is trying to play hard to catch. What he wants is to make everyone enter the reverse thinking. He wants everyone to think that Baccarat is actually a forced wear men in women's clothing. Otherwise, with the level of physical development of women in this world, no matter how disguised they will be found to be different sooner or later. After all, such big breasts cannot be tied by anything at all. It's better to confess it as soon as you open it, so that even if someone finds something strange in the future, the deep-rooted thought will make them think that this is what Gaz made Baccarat look like. Can't men wear cheongsam? Seeing that Baccarat didn't speak, Gaz turned to look at the clothing store owner, his tone full of threats. In the face of Gaz's questioning, Baccarat clearly saw a drop of cold sweat on the shop owner's head. Fortunately, the owner of the ready-to-wear shop is so old, he has never seen anything strange, so he quickly apologized and said. Of course. Of course there's no problem, as long as it's cute, it doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. Right. After finishing speaking, the owner of the ready-to-wear store also patted Baccarat on the back and slapped Baccarat directly, indicating that if she doesn't want to be bad luck, she should follow Gaz's words quickly. Chapter 9. After Gaz and Baccarat left the clothing store for a while, an elegant girl wearing a long dress, carrying an umbrella, taller than Baccarat and wearing a lace silk crooked hat also walked in. And began to look around in the clothing store. Boss, where is the cheongsam that I liked? As soon as the woman spoke, the tone was full of a female man, which immediately destroyed the elegant temperament. Bought by someone. The shop owner was still immersed in the grief that Gaz didn't pay for the things he bought, so he didn't see who it was, but just answered casually. Old guy, you actually bought the clothes I liked, you don't want to stay in the town, do you? The woman patted the counter, and the parasol in her hand was directly on the owner's throat, pressing him. The sharp tip of the umbrella touched the slack skin of the store owner, and she could get his life. It turned out to be Ms. Liana. Please spare your life. I can't afford the person who bought the cheongsam. I can't even sell it. At this time, the shop owner finally raised his head, and after seeing who was coming, he kept begging for mercy. BD, you mean you can provoke me, right? Liana was even more upset when she heard the shop owner's words. As the leader of the gang, although she looked at the scenery every day, in the end, she was just a female branch girl in the gang, and she was flattered in front of outsiders' object. But in front of the leader of the Broken Bear gang, he is just a BCH who wants to go, call, and drink. Today, I finally found time. Liana quickly brought the money she had saved for a long time, and went out to sell the pre-order long-time clothes. She is not afraid that the clothes will be snatched away. After all, many Luyings know about the clothes she ordered. Even if most Luyings like it, they will give themselves a face and choose to give up. But the clothes that were originally guaranteed to be guaranteed, but I didn't expect to be slapped in the face, completely. Liana, who was in a bad mood now, dares to look down on her when she sees another shop owner. This deeply stabbed her fragile self-esteem, so the parasol in Liana's direct hand couldn't help but send it forward again. The sharp umbrella tip slashed the shop owner's neck in an instant, and the bright red blood was dripping down, which means that if you don't give me an explanation, I will send you to see Shinigami today. No, absolutely not. How dare I look down on you, sir, but even you can't afford the person who bought the cheongsam. Because of Gaz's identity, coupled with that weird hobby, the shop owner didn't dare to say who it was, but just said an ambiguous person, otherwise who knows if Gaz will pay for it. Could it be that BCH Veronica? Liana first whispered, and then stabbed the tip of her umbrella forward again, and asked the shop owner. Say, who bought my clothes and dared to snatch what I like? In Luying, the shop owner can be the person she can't provoke, only a few bigger Luying groups are the top cards, and the only one who doesn't deal with her is Veronica, the little st. Ms. Liana, please don't ask, you really can't provoke that person. The shop owner pleaded bitterly to Liana, but unfortunately it was another wound in return. Liana drew a bloodstain on the shop owner's face again. After all, whoever, no matter who it is, slaps me in the face like this is absolutely unforgivable. In the face of the threat of life, the shop owner did not dare to keep it a secret. Master Gaz, it was bought by Master Gaz. What a joke, you can't find a better excuse if you make excuses. Why does Lord Gaz want a cheongsam? Could it be that he has hidden a woman? Liana's first reaction when she heard the shop owner's words was that she didn't believe it. What is a big man selling a small cheongsam for? As for hiding a woman, it's even more impossible. This is not to say that the Broken Bear gang doesn't have good family women, but they are all residents who have paid taxes, are blessed by the Broken Bear boss, and most of them are in the East District and never come out. Except for the gang members who really want to start a family, no one else can enter without permission or for special reasons, so they basically have no chance to know a good family, and can only fool around with the female branch, girls. As for the women shipped from other places, the poor quality ones were all sent to West Street for training, and then went directly to pick up customers. The good quality Broken Bears were picked up directly, and they would still be sent to West Street after a while, so there is no good family to say. And there are several men who will accept a female woman, let alone buy such an expensive thing for a female woman. That I can tell you about things, but you can't tell others that I said it, or I can't afford to be blamed by Lord Gaz. In the face of Liana's repeated questioning, the shop owner finally stopped insisting, and after hesitating for a while, he spoke to her. No problem, I'll tell people that this is what I saw secretly. Liana's face was bright and clean, she took back her umbrella and smiled at the shop owner. The first card is the first card, although it is not as good as that kid, but he is also a hook and soul-stirring little goblin. The shop owner suppressed the ripples in his heart, then came to the front of the shop, looked left and right, and then closed the door before beginning to tell what he had just seen. Ahem. It's like this. Next, people who pass by the ready-to-wear store will hear a woman exclaiming from time to time, and they rushed to the boss to be strong. They are old and have such strength. My God, he actually has that kind of hobby, what a pity for a piece of fresh meat. It's not. No. There are such cute boys in the slaves. Really, I didn't lie to you. Hey. It's very good that you have passed the test today, forget about selling my cheongsam, but you'd better make another one for me. This is the deposit. Liana let out a heavy breath and handed half of the cash in her pocket to the shop owner. Don't worry, Ms. Liana, I will deliver it to you in 3 days. The shop owner sent Liana to the door, and then asked Liana again worriedly. What I said is absolutely true, every sentence is true, don't say I told you. Don't worry. I won't betray you. Liana walked out of the ready-to-wear store and felt a lot more awake when the cool wind blew. Before, she felt dizzy just because the amount of information she received today was too great. She really didn't expect that Gaz, a potential member of the Broken Bear gang, would actually want a slave boy. What made her even more unacceptable was that the boy dressed up as a girl and actually defeated her as a Western street card. Do you want to strike like this? People. Afterwards, after Liana returned to West Street, some of her soulless souls, she accidentally said the news of Vice Admiral under the pressure of the sisters, okay. If you want a female branch, woman's mouth not to talk nonsense, and kill them, the rest of the methods are as difficult as sealing the mouth below them. And these messages were passed from the mouths of these, female branch, women to other, female branch, females, and then accidentally spread to the ears of other leaders, and some of them became stronger and stronger, and even evolved multiple versions. On the other hand, Gaz and Baccarat did not know that their affairs were constantly fermenting. After trimming Baccarat's messy hair, Gaz led Baccarat to the restaurant she was looking forward to, and ordered a Sea King's meal. Originally, Baccarat was still doubting whether one would be enough, but she obviously wanted more. Like Sea Kings, the smallest size is more than 2 times the size of whales. Huge and huge ocean overlord creatures, in the case of incomparable deliciousness, but their flesh and blood must be full of energy, which is not something that ordinary people like Baccarat can endure. Now, after eating only a few pieces of Baccarat, I felt that my stomach was too full, and I couldn't eat any more. No wonder this guy said he would buy himself as much as he could eat. The root cause is here. You know that the meat on her plate was just a small piece from the portion that Gaz ordered, and she didn't eat it. Seeing that there was a lot of Sea King's meat left on the plate, Baccarat helplessly put down her knife and fork, and then she could only salivate, watching Gaz cut a large piece of meat where she continued to eat. Very envious. Ha ha ha. Why don't you eat it, eat it. Gaz inserted the meat from Baccarat's plate with a fork, stuffed it into his mouth, and laughed at Baccarat. Humph. I'm full, sir, start eating quickly, I want to go back. Facing Gaz's ridicule, Baccarat turned his back directly, finally out of sight and out of mind. Go back, where are you going? That slave warehouse. Gaz laughed and teased Baccarat. Yes. What she can do, just her makeup. I am afraid that as long as she leaves Gaz's line of sight, she will not know who will be stunned and carried away, and she has felt countless malicious eyes on the way here. Now she finally understands why Gaz bought this suit for herself, and even familiarized herself with dressing up. Although he is trying to get it out of the way, he wants to use these things to tie him up and make him inseparable. Chapter 10. So, you'd better go home with me obediently. The night is still growing tonight. Seeing Baccarat's graceful curves supported by the Cheongsam, Gaz's heart suddenly burst into pride. This stunning beauty will be mine soon, I'm really looking forward to it. Baccarat is different from those, female, women. She is pure and perfect now. Only the gang leader has the right to enjoy such a woman in the Broken Bear gang, and now he can too. Thinking of this, Gaz suddenly got some rags and waited anxiously. The two ate up the meat on the plate, then took out a stack of money and threw it on the table, pulled up Baccarat and left. Hey! Wait, the clothes haven't been taken yet. Baccarat hurriedly grabbed the coat that fell on the stool. She heard something unusual in Gaz's words. What's going on? Could it be that Gaz wanted to disobey Broken Bear's order? Watching Gaz's performance, Baccarat's heart suddenly there was a bad guess that made her whole body cold. Master Gaz, didn't the leader of the Broken Bears say that women are not allowed to play with women for 3 days? You don't want to disobey his orders, you will be punished. Although Baccarat had conjectures in his heart, he couldn't help but keep a glimmer of hope. Clam. That kind of regulation is just for the rubbish below, it's not a problem for the bosses at all. We are not those scumbags who get soft feet when they play with women. You have seen the bosses complaining why? Because they don't care at all. Gaz scratched his ears and explained to Baccarat next to him. I know what you're thinking, don't hold the mind that it can be delayed for a day. It's useless, you can only be my woman, you can be safe from other people's intrusion, and, don't you live your life today? Are you not happy enough? Gaz actually discovered Baccarat's thoughts early in the morning, but he didn't break it. Anyway, no matter how hard Baccarat struggled, he couldn't escape from his palm. He was just waiting for Baccarat to take the initiative to give him a hug. Compared to eating such a beautiful woman with a rough bite, Gaz prefers to slowly enjoy everything she eats and let her get used to her existence. After all, what he wants is to conquer the woman in front of him in all aspects. Not only to get her body, but also her heart. Hey! It seems that there is still no escape from this hurdle after all. Hearing Gaz's words, Baccarat's expression darkened suddenly, and then said resignedly, Yes. Lord Gaz, I know. I will satisfy you tonight. Well. This is good. Tell me what you want in the future, and I will satisfy you as much as you can. Gaz put his arms around Baccarat in surprise, and lowered his head to incense her cheek. While they were talking, the two returned to Gaz's residence, which was a two-story building built of bricks. The light blue house looked clean and tidy. Although Gaz lived alone, every part of the room was clutter-free. Clean and tidy. Obviously Gaz didn't want to be a sloppy man like Baccarat thought, and the room was messy, with bottles and cigarette butts thrown all over the floor. It seemed that Gaz was a cleaner than she was. As soon as Baccarat entered the room, she sat on the chair nervously, clenched her fists, put her hands on her lap, lowered her head and didn't know what she was thinking, but Gaz could probably guess by seeing her trembling shoulders from time to time. Baccarat is afraid. Do you want to drink? This is a bottle of golden rum worth 50,000 Baileys. I've taken a lot of effort to detain a good thing from the cargo. Gaz chuckled, picked up the rum on the wine rack, and shook the transparent bottle. From where there was no trademark, Baccarat saw the amber-like golden liquid inside. Need not. Baccarat shook her head, she didn't want to drink, and it was a well-known alcoholic beverage like rum. I don't know how long it takes to distill such a golden-colored rum. I'm afraid that after a few glasses, she would be unconscious, and she didn't want to wake up and be wiped out. Yet. Drink it. Rum is a good thing, not only delicious, but also relieves stress. You really should try it. Before Baccarat had finished refusing, Gaz agreed for her and poured her a glass. Under the light, the golden liquid exuded a faint luster, with a slightly sweet smell of wine. Come on. Try it. Gaz shrugged and reached out to Baccarat. Baccarat looked at the rum in front of him and rolled his eyes. It was impossible not to drink it. Baccarat picked up the glass and took a sip. As the golden liquid enters the lips, the entrance is sweet and fragrant, as thick as honey, and it also has a special fresh taste after being brewed in oak barrels. Baccarat felt that this golden rum was even better than his usual drink, so he began to drink it, but after only 2 sips, the wine in the glass was gone, which made Baccarat a little bit unhappy. Or else. Gaz seemed to see through Baccarat's mind, smiled and poured another cup on the table, motioning for her to take it herself. Baccarat glanced at the golden liquid body. Although the taste fascinated her, she was already feeling slightly drunk after drinking a cup just now, and she didn't dare to drink it anymore, but it was strange to say that a cup of after drinking, the fear in her heart really subsided a lot. No. No more. Enough is enough. Baccarat, whose face was slightly red, quickly shook his head. No, that's fine. Gaz picked up the wine glass on the table and drank it, immediately showing an expression of enjoyment, and then continued. Oi! This tastes amazing. After drinking, Gaz suddenly showed an expression of incomparable enjoyment. But you can't just drink, I'll cut some fruit for you. Because they had just eaten the meat of sea kings, the two could hardly eat anything, so Gaz just took out a bunch of fresh fruits from the refrigerator and cut them up as dessert. Sniff! Sniff! After cutting a pineapple, Gaz picked up a pear, but as soon as he picked it up, he smelled a stench, put it under his nose and sniffed it, and found that it really was the smell of pears. Why does it stink like this? I obviously bought it yesterday. Aki dares to include private goods in the fruit I bought. It seems that he really doesn't want to mix in Broken Bear Town. Gaz muttered unhappily, *. Chapter 11. Throwing the broken pear at Baccarat, Gaz shouted with his back to her. Baccarat, throw that rotten pear to the house opposite, rotten fruit will attract insects. Why throw it across the street, aren't you and him neighbors? Baccarat, who has been absent-minded, asked speechlessly. Bob's house then? Oh. I'll go right now. Hearing that the opposite is actually Bob's house, Baccarat stood up without thinking. What is this? Devil fruit, you won't be so lucky. Baccarat looked down at the pear thrown into her arms by Gaz. Her pupils shrank suddenly, because this thing was very similar to the thing she had always wanted very much, and that was devil fruit. It's just that this pear is completely different from the orthodox devil fruit. The orthodox devil fruit, whether Logia, Paramecia, or Zoan, has a swirling 666 pattern on its skin, just like Vinsmott's, Sanji's, family, with identical eyebrows. However, the pattern on this one is indeed a faint mist, and it is impossible to detect it if you don't look closely. It even exudes a stench, and the stench is getting bigger and bigger, which is similar to all known devil fruits. Are not the same. Baccarat, hurry up and throw that thing over, I can smell that stench here. Gaz's roar came from the kitchen saddle, interrupting Baccarat's consideration. Never mind. It doesn't matter, it's a big deal, if it is devil fruit, it will make a lot of money. Smelling the increasing stench, Baccarat pinched her nose, closed her eyes, and took a sharp bite. Crack! As Baccarat took a bite, the stench in the room disappeared immediately. This strange phenomenon attracted Baccarat's spirit for a while. Bet right, this magical phenomenon, this world has nothing else to do except devil fruit. Baccarat continued to nibble on the pear, but as she ate it, Baccarat's face became pale again. How come? How can there be no taste? Isn't it that devil fruit tastes worse than shit? Something is wrong, why does this fruit have no taste? The pulp in Baccarat's hand is like eating white wax, without any taste. However, Baccarat did not give up, but still ate it. After all, this fruit was different from other devil fruits from the beginning. This smell makes me want to die. Just after Baccarat took the last bite of the fruit, an unimaginable disgusting smell rushed out of her throat and instantly filled her entire mouth. Then, this disgusting smell started to hit Baccarat's brain wave after wave like a wave, causing her brain to feel suffocated and dizzy. However, after the taste dissipated in a short time, Baccarat had a lot of information in his mind, not only the name of this devil fruit, but even some of its applied moves. And this information made Baccarat confirm that what she ate was indeed devil fruit, which made her relieved. I think devil fruit is not like the crazy rumors on the internet. You will feel the taste at the first bite, and it will come together when you receive the continued inheritance of the fruit. And that smell in Baccarat's conjecture is probably used to suppress the strange feeling in the brain caused by accepting the inheritance of devil fruit. It seems that the setting of devil fruit is also full of humanity. However, although it is different from what the analysts said on the internet, this situation makes sense. After all, in this One Piece comic, only 4 people are really portrayed in the process of eating devil fruit, Luffy, Buggy, and there are Kaku and Califa of CP9, and the rest are all based on the brains of the Water Friends. It is normal to guess wrong. However, this situation is actually traceable in the comics. Judging from the age of Luffy when he ate devil fruit, if that kind of child felt disgusting, he would probably spit it out immediately instead of continuing to eat it, but his expression was also interrupted by red hair. No one see. And Buggy fell directly into the sea and passed out after eating, and he couldn't see it anymore. Only Khalifa and Keiku of CP9 were recorded in the comics during the whole process of eating devil fruit. Seeing the contrast between the calm look of the two of them when they ate the fruit and the disgusting desire to die immediately after eating it, I am afraid they are also with themselves. Like now, it was only after eating the whole fruit that I was hit by the taste. Moreover, the two can integrate the fruit within a few hours of eating the fruit, use it freely, and even develop a variety of powerful moves. This obviously cannot be described as talent, and it must also be obtained. Some heritage information. Wanting to understand why the fruit he ate was different from what was circulated on the internet in his previous life, Baccarat began to check the information in his mind, which made Baccarat feel ecstatic. My God, it's actually the fruit of luck, the heaven-defying fruit. Luck fruit is also called lucky fruit. It is paramecia devil fruit. It can control the unseen and untouchable luck. Those with lucky fruit ability can absorb and store the luck of others by touching them with both hands. It can be said to be able to achieve some impossible things before the luck is exhausted, and the operation method is similar to that of Shinigami. It achieves goals through various coincidences, such as throwing blocks at random. Coin kills the enemy. And the fortune of the person who is touched will also change, and the lucky enemy who is absorbed will become extremely unlucky. The absorption of luck must be skin-to-skin contact, and the gloves or clothing you wear can isolate the ability of lucky fruit, but other people's no. Baccarat learned from memory that the fruit of luck is different from other fruits. Because the ability of this fruit is too heaven-defying, it only appears once every 100 years, and it can only exist for 12 hours at a time. And cannot be preserved for a long time. Once 12 hours have passed and no one eats it, the luck fruit will rot and lose its power, turning back into an ordinary fruit, and the luck demon will also leave, waiting for the next 100 years to be reincarnated again. And that disgusting smell is actually proof that the fruit of luck has begun to rot. Fortunately, Baccarat ate the fruit of luck at the last moment when the devil of luck left, and became a new generation of luck people. Asterisk. Chapter 12. However, the owner of the luck fruit ability in the original book seems to be the receptionist in the Golden City of the theater version. It seems to be called Baccarat, right? So it seems that I am also a famous dragon in One Piece. As for why Baccarat said that the fruit of luck is the fruit of heaven defying, because this fruit is the only thing that breaks the aura of the protagonist in all the two-dimensional works. Not only did he suck the luck of the Straw Hat as the protagonist, but even the Child of Destiny, who should be loved by the world, would have a stomach ache if he stood still, slipped on the banana peel and fell half dead when he moved. Mom is already more unlucky than Toma as a pickup artist. Seriously, Baccarat felt that if Luffy hadn't died, One Piece would have ended. Oda really had no choice. Baccarat alone could destroy the Straw Hat crew. In the original book, Baccarat was too confident and too blind to the ability to transport fruits. In addition, he had no ability and set up flags indiscriminately. As a result, he was stunned by Usobu's sneak attack. I'm afraid Straw Hat crew has long been buried in the Golden City. However, I think that the Baccarat in the original book should be similar to her own experience. Since she has not exercised any superhuman strength, she can become prosperous by just relying on the fruit of luck. It is natural for her to have too much confidence in the fruit, because with this fruit, even if she doesn't do anything, as long as she touches others casually, she is an invincible existence, so what's the use of exercising? However, he is not the arrogant, ignorant, and enterprising Baccarat of the original book, but a transmigrator with knowledge and vision far exceeding this era. And the fruit of luck will eventually be fully carried forward in her hands, Vice Admiral, reaching an unprecedented height, instead of being buried in the hands of a waste and buried at the bottom of the sea. Baccarat! What are you doing? Gaz looked at Baccarat, who was lying motionless on the table, and asked strangely. Ah. Nothing, nothing at all. I'm just a little stunned by that. Gaz's voice directly interrupted Baccarat from his thoughts. Haha. Indeed, that rotten fruit smells really bad. Now that guy Bob is suffering. Gaz put down the fruit plate in his hand, made it next to Baccarat, raised Baccarat's chin, and looked at her condescendingly, with a very ambiguous expression. Seeing Gaz's expression, Baccarat suddenly felt wrong, but unfortunately it was too late to react. Let me help you wake up. After finishing speaking, Gaz put a print on Baccarat's lips. Before Baccarat could understand what was going on, a tongue and head had already pried open her beetle teeth and reached in, seducing her. The tongue and head, plundering the body fluid inside. Nausea. Gross. Disgusting, lousy. She was actually tongue-in-cheek by a man, and Baccarat suddenly had goosebumps all over her body, and an extremely disgusting feeling came to her heart, but the gap between the two was too great, she was unable to resist at all, she could only push hard. He shoved Gaz, signaling that he was about to lose his breath. As if feeling Baccarat's thoughts, Gaz finally sent Baccarat away. Hoo. Baccarat, who was released, breathed violently, sighing, breathing the fresh air with a big mouth, and the whole person slumped weakly into Gaz's arms. It's not better this time. Okay, much better. This BD is actually strong, but not mouth, lousy, to see lousy not kill you, the fruit of luck will be activated. With the activation of Baccarat's ability, her eyes actually saw a different new world. In this world, there are no buildings, but only two colors of dark blue and black yellow. In this world, everyone has a kind of mysterious yellow and color cloud, and everyone's luck is clear at a glance. I think those clouds represent everyone's luck. Under the fruit ability, it should be invisible. The unfortunate luck was actually materialized. To be honest, the first time I saw the huge cloud that stretched for hundreds of meters on Gaz's body, I really scared Baccarat. After all, how lucky a person is, but it represents future achievements. A lucky person, no matter what he wants to do, the opportunity will come to him, and everything will come true. Even a trivial thing may become an incentive for him to take a step closer, and he can win a lottery ticket. The grand prize, this kind of person is referred to as European Emperor. And a person with bad luck is interesting. It's not that everything is not going well. If he is unlucky, he even gets his teeth stuck when he drinks cold water. He farts and hits the back of his feet. Such people are called African Emirates. Therefore, Baccarat believes that what the public talks about is actually the luck thing mentioned in the novels of the prehistoric genre, and the ability to carry the fruit is to control. Even the saints can only use the innate treasure to suppress, only the way of heaven can really control the power of luck, so Baccarat calls this ability to see luck as the eye of luck. However, Baccarat does not have the ability of Tiendeo, she is just a weak woman, but there is no innate treasure to suppress their luck in One Piece world, so Baccarat's ability is impossible for people in One Piece world to stop. Just like Gaz, his luck seems to be very scary, but still under Baccarat's ability, he is drawn to Baccarat by the fruit ability little by little, increasing her luck. Feeling that the fruit ability is constantly plundering Gaz's luck to strengthen herself. Although the speed is slow, it is luck. Even the slightest bit is very important. However, she wants to suck all one's luck like the original book. I am afraid that I still have to continue to develop the fruit. What? Seriously, if Gaz had too little knowledge and handed the fruit of luck to Baccarat, maybe he would really have grown into Long Aotian in the world of One Piece. After all, this guy is really lucky. It is a pity that God has given him the opportunity, but Gaz did not cherish it, so his road to Long Aotian will also turn here and become a passerby. However, because the development of Baccarat's fruit ability is still too weak, with Gaz's huge luck, it will take at least an hour for her to absorb it completely, so Baccarat's crisis has not been resolved, she must do something now. What is holding Gaz? So, Baccarat pretended to be determined and said to Gaz, "Well, Lord Gaz, can I drink some of that wine?" "No problem at all." Asterisk. Chapter 13. After 40 minutes. Gaz took a drink, put down the glass, shook his slightly drunk head, and then looked a little dazedly at the little loli who was still in front of him except for the smell of alcohol that was getting stronger and stronger. Meow. The director said this is different from the situation that he said before. He clearly said before that he would not drink. The promised 2 cups are more than enough. Why am I almost drunk, but you have nothing to do? Lord Gaz, the wine is gone, I'm taking a bottle. After Baccarat filled a glass of Gaz again, he shook the empty bottle in his hand, and said to Gaz. No. I don't drink anymore, I'm drinking too much. You know what happened in the past 2 days, you can't drink anymore. Gaz grabbed Baccarat's wrist and signaled that she couldn't drink anymore. But I haven't had enough. Baccarat picked up the glass of wine that belonged to Gaz, drank it in one gulp, and the trace of luck on her body disappeared instantly. Then after the glass of wine entered Baccarat's body, it entered a long inner cycle. Finally, after a series of coincidences in her body, the alcohol did not work at all, and then the alcohol changed back to sweat and urine. Excreted directly from the body and will not be absorbed by the body at all. This is another application of the lucky fruit ability. It consumes luck and achieves what you want. Baccarat can use the method of consuming luck to let other people's lucky events that only happen a few times in a generation quickly complete in a short period of time. However, this ability is not without limitations, because it is difficult for her to accomplish things, so Baccarat needs to pay more luck. If she is not lucky enough, it will be impossible to complete, and the fruit of luck cannot achieve something absolutely impossible in the world of One Piece. For example, Baccarat wants to bring a dead person back to life in the world of One Piece. It is absolutely impossible, because the working principle of the fruit of luck is to use various coincidences, and then achieve various incredible events. Therefore, unless someone in the pirate world has the ability to revive another person, then the fruit of luck will consume the activation and consumption of luck. In the last series of accidents, the person who has the ability to revive the dead will inexplicably think about the resurrection of the dead. Resurrection. But this is impossible. After all, there is only one yellow spring fruit, and it is still on the body of an immortal funny skull Brook, and as long as Brook does not die, there will be no next yellow spring fruit. In addition, Baccarat should always pay attention to his remaining luck to avoid consuming all his luck at one time, otherwise, the lucky fruit will become the unlucky fruit. Don't forget, the lucky fruit is just a name for this fruit. The genuine name of the lucky fruit is actually the fruit of luck, because it represents not only luck, but also bad luck. It is just that bad luck will be absorbed by Baccarat, but if the luck on her body runs out, then she will also be unlucky, just like the original book, she was directly killed in seconds. Maybe in the future, Baccarat can develop a method to use bad luck, but at least she doesn't have this ability yet, so she must always pay attention to the remaining luck. Magnitude. No, really can't drink. We should go upstairs to sleep. Without waiting for Baccarat to refute, Gaz dictatorially picked her up in the arms of the princess and walked upstairs unsteadily. My grass. Go upstairs to sleep, that's not okay. Can I get down if I go up? Facing the tough Gaz, Baccarat panicked. Although more than 40 minutes had passed, Gaz's luck was at least half left under Baccarat's eyes of luck. If she went upstairs at this time, she would never be able to escape. Tore Gaz's poisonous hand. Wait. Lord Gaz, please wait. What's wrong? Gaz got impatient. I want to go to the toilet first. All right. After drinking so much wine, it was strange not to go to the toilet, so Gaz had no doubts and put down Baccarat directly. Call. Just a little longer. Baccarat breathed a sigh of relief, but as soon as she entered the toilet, she thought that if she didn't meet people, the fruit of luck couldn't absorb the luck of others. How could this be, he meows? Who the hell designed this unfortunate fruit? How can you absorb luck without encountering people? Baccarat desperately wanted to hit the wall, but there was nothing she could do. Isn't it okay? Hey! Coming soon. Sitting on the toilet, Baccarat's anxious little head was full of sweat, but she couldn't think of any way. In the end, she let out a helpless sigh and walked out of the toilet. Anyway, it was a knife to stretch her head and shrink her head. Now she can only hope that the lucky fruit will be stronger. After tonight, you will be my woman. Gaz hugged Baccarat, his eyes were a little hazy, and there was a strong smell of alcohol in his words, which made Baccarat wrinkle his nose. Obviously he had drank too much, and his head began to lose consciousness. The color of the wine, the color of the wine. As soon as the wine came up, Gaz was obviously more anxious. Come on! In the hurry! Baccarat's heart was going crazy, and he began to use his abilities desperately to absorb Gaz's luck. However, Gaz's luck was like a bottomless abyss, and it couldn't be washed away no matter how much he sucked. Hurry up to Laozi, Laozi doesn't want to be lost just after crossing When Gaz picked up Baccarat and got up to go to the bedroom, Baccarat shouted frantically in his heart. Her drive to the fruit's ability has reached its limit, and her body can't help but tremble. Don't be afraid, I will be very gentle. Gaz didn't care about the trembling with Baccarat, but simply thought that Baccarat was scared because of the first time, so he comforted her. The ghost needs your tenderness, give me all your luck, you fool. As if hearing Baccarat's call, the luck fruit deposited on her body seemed to hear Baccarat's call, and her ability to absorb luck instantly became dozens of times stronger, like a giant beast swallowing Gaz's luck in an instant. It was absorbed by her. Boom 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 boom. And as Gaz's last bit of luck was transferred to Baccarat, the alarm bell in the center of the town suddenly rang wildly. Asterisk. Chapter 14. Damn it, how come there are enemies attacking the town at this time? Gaz, who was in the fire, heard the alarm bell, and immediately slammed his fist on the head of the bed in anger. But there is no way. As the leader, he must go to this kind of gathering, otherwise he will definitely be punished by Broken Bear. Maybe his life is not guaranteed, let alone if he has not yet entered. Even if he has already entered, he has to pull out and gather. Baby! Continue when I come back. After finishing speaking, Gaz kissed Baccarat on the lips again, and by the way, he gave her that job before quickly picking up the clothes on the ground and running out. Call. It's really time for this enemy to come, and the fruit of luck is finally okay. I'm disappointed, but unfortunately I don't have the energy to escape. Looking at Gaz who was leaving quickly, Baccarat was actually exhausted and was about to collapse. He was paralyzed on the bed, unable to move even a finger. The overloaded use of the fruit ability caused Baccarat to consume a lot of physical strength. Fortunately, Baccarat absorbed a lot of Gaz's luck before, otherwise, after the physical strength is exhausted, it will consume Baccarat's lifespan. I wish your brother was kicked off. Hearing the sound of the door closing downstairs, Baccarat appeared unhappy and said a blessing to Gaz, and then couldn't hold on any longer, and fell into a drowsy sleep. Obviously, what Gaz did to Baccarat before she left made her full of resentment. It's just that Baccarat, who was sleeping in the past, didn't know that with her habitual blessing before going to bed, the luck value on her body began to decrease rapidly. After a while, she absorbed less luck from Gaz a quarter. Bam! Boom! Bam! Bam! Not knowing how long she slept in a drowsy state, Baccarat was suddenly awakened by a very violent knock on the door downstairs. Baccarat knew that Gaz should have returned. Well. Rubbing her sleepy eyes, Baccarat walked downstairs with bare feet to open the door for Gaz, but it was not Gaz that entered his eyes, but a tall man with a beard. Baccarat had seen him during the day. His name was Gris, and he was Gaz's friend. He was a nice person and had an honest character. Even when dealing with slaves, he was very kind and would not beat or scold him like Bob. "You're the kid who followed behind Gaz during the day." Although Baccarat had her head cut, changed into a small cheongsam, and washed very cleanly, the outline of her face did not change, and Gris still had a vague impression. "Lord Grace, please come in." Seeing Gris on his back and falling into a comatose Gaz, Baccarat hurriedly welcomed Gris in and put the comatose Gaz on the bed with him, apparently injured in the previous battle. "Lord Gaz, what happened to him?" Baccarat, who didn't find the wound, began to question Gris where Gaz was injured. After all, although she hated Gaz very much, she still needed to rely on Gaz before the fruit ability was fully developed. While Baccarat was examining Gaz's injury, Gris unceremoniously took a bottle of Gaz's collection of golden rum, and then sat down on the stool and took a sip. "Ha ha ha! Really good wine." Gris, who was very cool at first, heard Baccarat's question, and a little embarrassment appeared on his face, and he answered after a long time of shyness. "Ahem, that. How can I say it?" Baccarat was a little strange, and he didn't know what was going on to make this cool guy so twisted. "Ahem. I won't summarize the battle or anything. You don't understand it anyway. In short, this kid Gaz was carelessly injured in the previous battle. I'm injured, Gaz-sama is so powerful, and I didn't seem to see any wounds just now? Could it be an internal injury?" "It's not an internal injury, No, if you say that, it's actually an internal injury." Gris said that there was a sudden smile but not a smile, and Baccarat looked even more strange. Where was Gaz injured? Just when Baccarat was strange, suddenly, a light of lightning flashed across Baccarat's mind. If I remember correctly, she seemed to bless Gaz before she fell asleep, begging him to be kidnapped. Kick it off. Wait, isn't it? It won't be so efficacious. Thinking of this, Baccarat's mouth twitched. Then she quickly got the Eye of Luck and checked her luck value. Sure enough, she had entered the world of cloud energy, and she found that she had lost a lot of luck in her body. There's no need to run, Gaz must have hurt the little brother, but I don't know if it's broken or not, and I need to confirm it. Ahem, well, let me tell you so. You know, fight. He will always attack people's weaknesses, and I don't know what the hell this stinky boy is doing. He has been fighting people so fiercely, and his work has been hard and not soft. You must know his size. Having said that, Gris gave Baccarat a tentative look, and found that Baccarat's face suddenly turned red. Griston understood, the two of them have already passed, and the taste of this kid Gaz is really heavy. After all, because of the geographical relationship, the people here are very savage, both male and female, advocating power and glory, so child molestation is really not really popular among these barbarians, and there are also those corrupt in the world government countries. The aristocratic gentlemen are good at this. With such a big thing standing outside, where else can they hit without attacking? So, I was hit by someone accidentally, puff, ha 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 ha. After Gris finished speaking, he could no longer hold back the laughter in his heart, and he laughed out loud. To be honest, Gris has traveled all over the world for so many years. In the battlefield, he was attacked to the root of his life because he had erections for 3 hours in a row. The funny thing is that I have never encountered such a thing in my life. Asterisk. Chapter 15. I'll go, this is just a wish, I said casually, okay? If the fruit of luck is so heaven-defying, this kind of nonsense wish can come true. Hearing Gris' words, Baccarat's mouth twitched, and he immediately stretched out his hand to a place where Gris couldn't see, and pinched the soft flesh on the inside and side of his thigh, so as not to laugh out loud. Could it be cut off? How could it be like this? The severe pain caused Baccarat to turn pale, and she quickly pretended to ask in disbelief. It wasn't cut off. It wasn't cut off. Gaz was just kicked hard when he was beheading his opponent, but, although it wasn't broken, he was also seriously injured. According to the doctor, it seems that some cartilage inside is broken. Although the doctor connected it to him, it will take at least 2 months to recover, and it may leave a psychological shadow. Whether it can be used in the future is another question. Hearing Baccarat shouting that he was cut off, Greston's legs tightened. If the job was cut off, it would hurt to think about it, so he quickly explained to Baccarat. Cut. Isn't yang wilting the same as abolishing it? Baccarat rolled his eyes secretly. So, it's good to have some help. Baccarat knelt down beside Gaz, stroking Gaz's face in a coma, his eyes buried deep in the sea, not letting Gris see, while the other hand kept pinching his own. The thighs and legs were tender, and the painful Baccarat's body twitched, and finally suppressed the smile in her heart. Ugh! Sorry. I didn't mean to. Looking at the crying Baccarat, although Gris was rude, she was still a little embarrassed. After all, laughing at her man in front of her inner was really not a human thing. Moreover, it was obvious from Gris that Baccarat was blaming herself. After all, the reason why Gaz's work was still firm on the battlefield, both of them knew it well, so Baccarat had Gris is not surprised by this mentality. It doesn't matter. I don't blame you, woo. 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 It's all Gaz-sama that I killed. Baccarat wiped the tears on her face, it hurts, put her hand on Gris's arm, and began to secretly absorb his luck, but this time, the speed of absorbing luck was several times faster than before. The overloaded operation ability of her has increased her fruit development a lot. Looking at the crying Baccarat with the rain pear blossom, Gris suddenly twitched in his heart, and couldn't help feeling a little distressed. And many more. And many more. This is wrong with him. By the way, isn't this guy in front of him a man? A man crying Laozi feels distressed in a woolen thread. But the corners of Gris's mouth twitched violently, because the guy in front of him who seemed to be a beautiful girl was actually a man with a handle, but even if he knew this, he looked at the crying sad ba. Kara, Gris still couldn't help but opened his mouth to comfort him. Hey! Don't cry, this kind of thing only blames Gaz's lack of strength, and can't blame others. But as soon as these comforting words were spoken, Gris froze. He found that there was something wrong with himself today. He was not usually like this. How could he be a man at sea who grew up in knives, guns, and rum? So indecisive. When he taught his subordinates before, he should not go up and punch him down, and then tell him that a man should be a man, what should be done, crying and crying. Is it like this? In the end, the other party changed his past and wanted to be his younger brother. Then, they had a good time in the sunset, swept blood and sweat on the sea together, and robbed ships. In the end, one day, when you encounter an unmatched enemy, you will die together in the battlefield, buried in the sea, and even if you die, you will have to wave together. This is the romance of a real man. When did I become indecisive like this? It's not to comfort the girls, wait, comfort the girls, I am. Could it be that Laozi has been bent like this? Absolutely not, I am a pure man. Thinking of this, Gris hurriedly stood up, walked quickly to a place 10 meters away from Baccarat, and wiped.
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना?